Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all having a great day. I personally have had a lovely day. The weather's like 27 degrees. I've been getting my tan on if you couldn't tell. So I'm in a very good mood, which is good because I've got a great video for you today. I hope it doesn't seem like weird timing or insensitive because obviously I know a lot of people like myself are currently out of work because of the current circumstances or can't physically do their work and things like that. There's a whole plethora of things surrounding that and job or employment, which I'm well aware of and experiencing firsthand. But honestly, this is my most asked about question, most requested video, and it's just something that I've seen a lot of people worrying about and stressing about, especially as they're coming to starting university in September and all of these kind of things, which, believe it or not, it's going to come around faster than you think it is. So I just thought I'd hop on here and do this video for you, answer all those questions that you have burning in your head and that you have been asking me on my DMs constantly, which is more than fair. If you didn't know, I've been to university for 4 years. I took 1 year out to do an internship and I worked the other 3 years alongside my degree. So my first year I had 2 jobs and my degree, and I worked throughout second year and third year. But yeah, as you can tell, I've had a lot of experience working alongside doing my degree, which I thought kind of gave me a good experience of it firsthand and just taught me some really good things that I wanted to share with you. So as always, I have a list on my phone of things that I'm going to share with you. So obviously, to start off, I just wanted to say, if you're not planning on working at uni, or you're not sure yet, or you don't know whether it's for you, that's completely fine. Like, no one can really tell you how difficult your course is going to be or how easy it is going to be finding a job in your new place and all of those kind of things. And sometimes financially you don't need to. If your student loan is big enough and it covers all your expenses, that's great. You don't really need to add it on the stress of taking on another job unless it's for the experience of it, which again is very valuable. But if it's at a detriment to you and you don't actually need that extra money, maybe you don't have to get a job. But me personally, I needed a job. My student loan barely covered my rent. I think it didn't cover my rent. I think I had to top up the other half, especially in first year. Second and third year definitely didn't cover my rent, so I had to work. I didn't really have any other choice. I did very nicely have some money sent to me from my parents just because I was very stressed financially, and they were nice enough and able to help me out with that, which was very, very kind of them, and I was very fortunate in that situation. But that didn't mean I wasn't working. So to kind of give you my story of it, I guess, I was a waitress and a bartender in first year, and then I carried on that bartending job in second and third year. That's it. So as for my advice, we'll get into it. So the first thing that I think is really important is not to apply for a job or get a job until you've got your timetable, because you want to balance that job with your timetable, because when you're at university, your main job has to be university. Like, there's no other question about it. You have to really set your priorities, and then your part-time job or the job you have on the side needs to be kind of like a side hustle almost. It's something you fit around your university. So if you have hours that mean you have to miss lectures, or that are going to push you really hard on your exam deadlines, or you know you have a test every Wednesday but you're working really late on Tuesday nights, like, you kind of have to work out what works for you and just kind of go from there to really try and figure out that work-life balance, or that work-study balance, I guess. Obviously, there's no rule of thumb. There's never like, oh, do 1 hour of work for every 4 hours of university you have. There's nothing really like that, because everyone's different and the workload of each degree is different. So for me personally, I did an events management degree. I only had 8 hours of lecture a week, which meant I had a lot of time off where I could work, which helped. So I found that if I worked anything from like 20 to 24 hours maybe was like pretty good. I would get enough money to support myself and some extra spending money, and I wouldn't be spreading myself too thin. I would say try and balance it out into like a normal work week. So obviously if you have 40 hours of studying throughout the week, you may want to take maybe like 12 hours on the weekend at a most. Like, you just kind of have to weigh up your options and work what works for you. If you have a really strong ethic and you really enjoy your job or what have you, you could definitely up that if you're happy with that, to like let your social life like drop a little so you can study and work at the same time. That's completely up to you. But for me personally, I find that the 8 to like 24 ratio kind of worked quite well. Take from that what you will. I'm not saying that that's the new rule of thumb or anything, but that's just what I found has worked for me and has been manageable. So maybe if you were in a similar situation to me, you could just bear that in mind. So with all that being said, I would highly, highly, highly recommend 0-hour contracts. Now, I know this is quite a controversial topic and some people hate them, but for students, I think they're super beneficial, just because basically a 0-hour contract means that your employer isn't liable, responsible, or doesn't have to, isn't contracted to give you a certain amount of hours. The sun is gone. Which basically means some weeks they could offer you 0 hours and you can't fight against it. You may need the money, but they're not offering you any hours. Sorry, that's it. But it also means you get to choose your hours, which helps a lot when it comes to planning it around your diary, around your university schedule, and also when it comes to exam season, because you can choose to take a lot less hours during that time. Obviously each company is different, but I worked for Indigo at the O2 behind the bar, pulling pints. Freaking love it. It's a really, really good job, and it works for me because I get to put in all the hours that I'm available. So I'll do like after uni, and I won't do weekends because Christian, my boyfriend, works full time, so we get weekends together. So I don't tend to work weekends unless I really need the money that month. And it also means if I know I have a deadline on Friday, I won't work Thursday and Wednesday or something, you know, just so I can kind of sort that out. So I schedule that all in. I tell my employer all the times I am available. So I'm available Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday night on this week and all of that. And then they'll schedule it in depending on what hours I've told them that I'm available. How much they're going to schedule me in within those hours, no one really knows. Like some weeks I could have 20 hours, some weeks I could have 4. Like it's very different for each week. So you have to keep on top of your schedule and kind of keep checking your schedule to know the next time you're working, because it's not like patterned out, but it does really help in the sense you can choose your own hours. So my next tip would be to consider working evenings and weekends, which is when I mostly work, because obviously I work at Indigo at the O2. They do events mostly in the evenings, and that works really well for me because a lot of my lectures didn't start until like 11, which meant I could work until 4 AM and still get a relative amount of sleep. Obviously not in deadline crunch, but before that I could definitely do that. But it's just something to consider. Obviously if you have full days off, you can work during the day, but I would say try not to schedule a day of work on the day you know you have a lecture or anything like that, just because you will end up spreading yourself too thin, and I think it's really hard to commit yourself to 2 completely different things that require quite a lot of you. If you can work weekends, I would definitely recommend that. I personally didn't want to work weekends, which made it very difficult finding a job, because a lot of hospitality jobs and things like that need you to work weekends. Like if you're working in a shop as like an attendant, or if you're working as a waitress, anything like that, a lot of times people will want you to work weekends because it's the busiest days for the company. But I personally didn't want to do that, so a 0-hour contract really helped with that, just because I wanted to be able to travel home. I wanted to go on like weekends away if I wanted to, and also I wanted to spend time with my boyfriend. So again, it's all about just weighing up what's right for you, what works for you, what you want to prioritize, and just sticking with it. My next point is so crucial, and it is to let your employer know that you are a student. I know sometimes it can be something you want to kind of keep private because you want the job, and if your studies are going to get in the way, or the employer thinks your studies are going to get in the way, you don't want them to know that, because at the end of the day you want the job. But I found that maybe once you're in the job or what have you, if you want to play it that way, just let your employer know that you are a student, and let them know when your exams are as soon as possible, because a lot of employers will want you to do well in your studies. They know you're paying a lot of money, they know you want to get the most out of it, and they'll be willing to help you get there. So by letting them know like, hey, I've got 3 exams in June, so I might need to swap some shifts around, or just take on a little bit less hours in there and maybe pick them back up in July, anything like that, just kind of approach it in a very like flexible manner, not like, I can't work in June. They might not be as friendly with that one, but yeah, just be flexible about it and let them know as soon as possible, so that they can ready themselves and hire extra staff if they need to, or kind of figure out how they're going to manage that from earlier on. They'll definitely be thankful that you've done that, rather than telling them like a week before, like, oh, by the way, I can't work next week because I have an exam. That's probably not going to work so well. So definitely keep open communication with your employer, and it just helps the relationship a lot, because you both know what to expect from each other, which is always good. My next tip obviously is, once you're in the job, once you've got it, once it's working well for you, start building your network. Obviously university is a great time to expand your network, to talk to more people, to talk to some people you never would normally, and that's the case if you're in a job. You're working with new people who may not even be at your university, who may be at differing ages, and you also have clients or customers or anything like that who again might work in your industry that you're interested in, or might know someone who works in your industry. So just be really open with lots of different people. Try and be that kind of people person, extrovert, so that you can start building those relationships, even if they don't go anywhere. Even if you just chat to this person for like 10-15 minutes and he goes on with the rest of his day and you to go on with the rest of yours, you've still had that interaction with someone, which is great practice for when the next person comes along. This is something I could definitely do more of, and I think it was just working behind a bar. Sometimes when people come and talk to you, it's like, it's a lot of work. It's very fast paced behind the bar, and sometimes you just think that they're there to like hit on you or try and get a free drink or whatever. So yeah, it's something that I took with a pinch of salt, I guess, and was a bit, what's the word, a bit paranoid, I guess. Would paranoid be the word? I don't know, but I was a little bit apprehensive about it, but it's definitely something that I'm going to be continuing to do more of as I enter the workplace and things like that, because there's always new people you can meet. And also there's a quote that I actually mentioned in one of my previous videos which was similar to this, but it's that every person is an expert in something, and which basically just means you can learn from everyone. Everyone has something new to teach you, whether it's about them or about yourself, or just something really random that you would never have expected. I think it's really important to build that network whilst you are in a job. My next tip is a huge one, and it is work locally if you can, if it's possible. So basically what I mean by this is, like, when you're searching your jobs online or looking for jobs to apply for, don't look at jobs which are 45-minute on a bus or anything like that. It's just a bit much, especially when you're a student. You want to be able to use your time the most efficiently that you can. Obviously you can study on the bus and kind of do your essay on the bus if you really think that's what you're going to do. I personally can't do that. I get awful travel sickness, like that's not a possibility for me. So I worked a like 10-minute walk away from my house, which was so lucky, and I'm not saying it's easy to be able to get that, but I would say if you have the option to work closer to home, definitely do, because the less time you spend on a bus or commuting or anything like that, the more time you can spend either doing something you really enjoy, doing your job, or studying for uni. So all things to consider. Also, obviously if it's closer to home, the price of the travel into work will probably be a lot less, which is always good. My next tip is very personal and kind of reflective in a way, but it's just to be honest with how much you can handle. I found this really like tough in, I think it was, I might have even been in sixth form actually, in A-levels. I started having like panic attacks because I just had too much going on with A-levels, and I had a boyfriend at the time, and I had a part-time job. It was all a lot. There was a lot going on, and because I had just moved into sixth form, I think I was making the transition from GCSEs to sixth form or A-levels, and it was a lot, and I had to be honest with myself and kind of take a step back from some things. And I think it's really important to do that. University is a huge transition. It's a lot different from sixth form or college, especially if you have a very demanding or intense course. If you're doing like a law degree or something, or becoming a doctor or anything like that, it can be very intense and very coursework heavy, very study heavy. Obviously that wasn't the case for me. I only had 8 hours of lecture a week, but I still had to figure out what hours worked for me, how much work I could do and how much studying worked for me, while still keeping my grades up to a standard that I was proud of and happy with. Because at the end of the day, you are paying a lot of money to go to university. I know I've already mentioned that, but I think it is important to consider, because it does kind of refocus you and make you realise your priorities, or where your priorities should be. So yeah, just be really honest with yourself, and if you do find yourself getting stressed, or your grades start to slip, or your attendance starts to slip, just bear in mind that maybe you might need to pull back from work. Obviously I know it's easier said than done. I know sometimes you have bills to pay, you have rent to pay, like you need the hours, but whether that's just that you need to move some hours around, or work on a different day, or work a night shift one day, or what have you, just bear that in mind and kind of figure out what works best for you, and just how much you are willing and capable of taking on, like mentally and physically. But yeah, they are all my tips for working whilst at uni. I hope that wasn't too dry or anything. Oh, I also did just want to mention the part-time like paying price, because a lot of people ask me about that. So I obviously live in London, so I get the London rates, which are a bit different from other places in the UK, just because it's more expensive to live here. But I think part-time wages are around, like, I've always got like £8 to £9 or £7.50 to £9, somewhere around there, an hour for working part-time. Just wanted to pop that in there because there were a lot of questions about that. But yeah, that is all of my tips and advice for working whilst at uni. I hope you found some of this helpful. I hope it wasn't like too dry. I know working at university can be quite a stale subject to talk about. It's not very exciting. There's a lot that goes into it and a lot of hard work, but done in the right way, it can be really great. You can meet some really great people, you can learn some amazing things, and get some great experience on your CV for when you graduate. Of course, if you do have any more questions or I didn't explain something in detail as you would like, either leave your questions down below, which I'll be happy to answer in the comments, or you can head over to my Instagram and DM me on there and I'd be more than happy to try and help you out. But yeah, if you have enjoyed this video, please hit thumbs up and subscribe down below because I'm currently posting 3 videos a week. So if you're bored, sat at home looking for some new content to watch, click subscribe and hopefully I'll see you very soon.